Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the simple and AI-powered rewards and recognition platform for employee engagement.
Before, during, and even after the pandemic, women worldwide are finding it challenging to balance the demands of their careers and families, which has made it difficult to concentrate on their professional growth. To handle shifting patterns in the new economy, women must consider skill building, reskilling, and upskilling now more than ever before. Welcome to the Vantage Influencers Podcast. I'm your host, Sushmita. Today, we'll be talking about the different skills that working women must have and how they can empower themselves. My guest today is Anjali Gulati, the founder and CEO at People Konnect. Welcome to the show, Anjali.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And it would be really great if you take a moment to provide some background information about yourself to our audience today.
Great. So I am by education, I'm an HR professional. I had a couple of corporate jobs before I moved out and started People Konnect, which is an HR executive. We started out as an executive search firm, and now we're a fully equipped HR talent solutions company about 13 years ago. And I live in Mumbai. So that's a quick introduction for you.
Yeah, so you're talking about People Konnect, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I was going through your profile, and you have written that you drew your strength from your own journey through the 3 M's, that is marriage, mobility, and motherhood, to set up People Konnect. So would you like to share your story behind this? Like, how did you first become involved in this initiative?
Sure. So I come from an army background. My father was in the army, and we've seen movement all our lives. So I think that really taught us how to be agile and adaptable, because you quickly have to, kind of settle into a new place and make friends and quickly start going to a new school, new setup, everything, right? So that's something that we grew up with, and we saw a lot of that in our childhood. That I think told us or gave us the strength to say that any situation, you just have to find your way through and move on. So that's, I think, a very, very key learning that we had very early on through life. Then I moved to Bombay about 19 years ago with a job. My parents were in Bhopal. I'd finished my MBA. I was living with them, had a job there. Then there was, of course, a bigger opportunity, and I said, okay, let me try and see if I can move to a larger city. I'd never been in Mumbai before that, and the whole scare of how will you ever survive in a city as big, and we've all heard various things about Mumbai, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think that plunge really helped, and once I came here, I think I've like kind of settled down here. Got married here. My husband, I think, has really been the wind beneath my wings, because he has always been, said that when I wanted to start out also on my own, he's the one who gave me the confidence. In fact, he gave me my first few thousands to get started with, and said, okay, if you make this work, then I know that, you can take it through. So from there, right on to, support through the entrepreneurial journey, because we all know it's not easy, right? There are times when you're working like 24/7, and there are so many ups and downs that you have to kind of live through. But the support is, I think, very, very important through all of that. Lastly, of course, motherhood, that kind of put me into this whole entrepreneurial space. I quit my corporate job when my son happened, because at that time I used to work with ICICI Bank. And I knew that, the kind of demands that the job will have from me, plus a small baby, will be tough to manage. So that's really the reason why I got into something like this. I started with, like a work from home setup and all of that. And over time, we moved to like a small office and another office, and the team kind of grew in. And we continue to hire a lot of women who are coming back from a break, because I think that really is seeing it very up close and personal, right? That journey of how are you able to manage all of this? So I think that kind of put me in a mind space where I said that I need to do this for more women. So that's how we started.
Yeah. And is it like a all-time work from home format in your office now?
No. We have all fully work from office.
Oh, you're working for office now.
Yes. We got back after the pandemic, and now we are fully work from office.
Brilliant, Anjali.
And out of the 40-member team that we have now, 38 are women.
Brilliant. Great. Yeah, so we'll be talking about that also, like you celebrate a sizable number of women employees in your organization. But before that, like talking about one of the verticals of People Connect is the Back to the Front campaign, isn't it?
Correct.
Which is about empowering women across sectors and life stages. That is, those who are currently, in and are looking to restart careers through innovative, workable and sustainable strategies and solutions. So to tell me more about this, like what exactly are you people up to when it comes to, working women empowerment and the women who are, trying to come back?
One is, I want to start talking to you about the context of, what empowerment means, because I don't think any of us have the power to use that word. Empowerment for a woman is when she empowers herself or decides to empower. Nobody else can empower anyone. Yeah. So I think that word where we say that, I'm working on this for women empowerment, I think that's I don't agree to that premise at all. Okay. It's about taking ownership and saying that I want to do something with my life, and then how we can enable that journey. That's really the ask, right?
Empowering ourselves.
Yes. So like I was telling you that the reason why I got into something like this is because going through that journey very, very, up close myself. I have 2 children now. One, of course, the reason why I started, and the other happened during the journey, right? So also because we were a hiring company, a lot of our clients at that time, about 8-9 years ago, when diversity only meant show us more women or get more women into the organization, and we only want to hire more women. So a lot of our clients at that time said that send us for every position that you are working on. And if you're sending me 5 CVs, out of that 3 have to be women. So that really set the ball rolling for us. And we said that if we want to increase the number of women who are available in the workforce, we have to start looking somewhere else, which means there is a whole pool of women who kind of take a break because of motherhood or, looking after aging parents or whatever reasons that they may have. And they are at some point, they're ready to come back. So how do we enable that journey for them, right? How do we handhold them, or how do we tell them that here's an opportunity and here's an employer who's looking for you? So basically, we wanted to bridge that gap. That's where we started. Yeah. Over time, we've become a full-service D&I consulting organization, which means we work with organizations to make them more inclusive. We work with them to find out how inclusive they are today, like a survey piece. We work with leaders to say, how can you be more inclusive in everything, right? Women, of course, is one pillar. But otherwise, how are you more inclusive in your communication? How are you looking at building your teams, which have people from all kinds of backgrounds, which have people from all kinds of ages, educational backgrounds, ethnicities, etc., etc. So we're trying to help basically organizations become more inclusive. Also, we continue to work with women. One is get them back. Second is within organizations. We know that for all women, right? We know that there are a couple of rungs missing in the ladder. So how do we fix that ladder by basically providing more developmental inputs? Things like owning your career, or talking about personal branding, or talking about impactful communication, or all that. So basically providing them the help that they will need to reach the next level. We also have, a whole pool of senior leaders who are available to us through it was initially a WhatsApp group called Power Women, but now the circle has grown, and these are all senior women who are, who had their journeys, are CXOs or entrepreneurs in various fields. Yeah. They are also a part of our network, and very, very helpful when it comes to talking to other women, mentoring, talking about their own journeys to say where and how they would have navigated it. So there's lots to learn from them as well. So that's the kind of network that we have built. We've also done 2 projects, right? Or 2 events that we kind of have incubated over the last 3 years. One is called She Maker Summit, which is specifically for women in manufacturing. We've done 3 runs of the summit. It was all virtual, because we wanted to reach the plants at the remote locations. If we do a Bombay, Delhi somewhere, a lot of people will not be able to reach there. And the kind of lives, the kind of women that we've seen in these plants, and they're so inspirational that it's really, really a pleasure to be able to showcase them, and also tell so many other girls and women who are currently maybe studying or on a break, to say, here, see how they're being able to manage their successful careers, or see how they have created a whole ecosystem for them to succeed. So that's one part. We are just now started working on something called WINS, which is Women in Sales. And we're very happy to say that LinkedIn has kind of lent their name to us for the next 2 years to help drive this agenda.
Great initiatives, Anjali, truly. So do you have any specific HR practices that you want to share that is for, especially for the women employees that you have? Or any kind of rules and regulations or HR practices for the, as you have already said.
I think what any organization that wants to hire more women or is currently, in that space of working around inclusion, I think the key element, given the pandemic and the kind of workforces that, the kind of expectation that people have from the workplace today is, the key word is flexibility. The minute you give a woman a little bit of flexibility, she may or may not even use it. I may be able to still be in office from like a 9:30 to 6:30 every day of the week. I may not even need to use that flexibility, but just the fact that it is available to me when I want it.
Available.
Yes. I think that really makes all the difference. Just the fact that, an organization is kind of supportive or is aligned to the fact that I have a life outside of work also. And some days I may need to dip into that. Just the fact that the organization recognizes this, I think is enough for us to see a whole lot of women be able to take that plunge.
Even in case of menstrual leaves, I would say, it's a good idea, to keep 1 or 2 days of menstrual leave. Everyone might not take it because they
everyone doesn't need it, but it's just that it's there, and if somebody wants to use it, they can pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. So also in corporates, when you talk about working towards gender equality, the skills required for men and women to succeed are essentially the same. We all know that, but at the same time, there is no denying that men are regarded as having some strengths that women do not. Like, very sad to say that.
No, but on the other side, women have so many strengths that men don't have. So it's it's an equation which will kind of work for both sides.
But then also some skills are seen to be more male oriented, and therefore they are less appropriate for women. So based on your own work and life experiences, what are the fundamental skills that you believe that women in particular need to learn in order to move closer to equality and to advance in the workplace as a whole?
So I think the whole space of, when we talk to women and tell them that be more like men, be more assertive, be more authoritative, I think that premise personally to me doesn't work, because we are innately, the kind of people that we are emotional, or we have certain strengths. I think the idea is to play that up more than look at really what we don't have. The strengths that we bring to the table, I think it's time really to recognize them and say that I'm going to bring my whole self to work, one, and I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to develop my strengths, and also the parts that maybe I'm not so good at. Either I make, work on them to bring them to a level where I can manage, or I get people in my team who kind of cover up for me on those skills, right?
Yeah.
And let me play to my strength. So I think that premise of understanding where I can excel, who I am, understanding of one's own strengths and areas where I need to develop, etc. I think that really is the starting conversation here. Instead of saying that, men and women and this whole thing of, men are like the stronger gender and this and that. I think, right, a society is made up of equal men and equal women, right? It's time that we represent the same thing in our organizations. So how will you do that? It's not to say that if you just look at a family unit, the woman versus the man, the roles are kind of clearly demarcated. Some roles, right? Today, even in families, we're trying to say, okay, let's work together as a unit, as a team, to say, if you need to do this, I need to do this to help you. If the man needs to do this and the woman needs to help buy certain things, I think that conversation is happening a lot more in families today. So why not the same way in organizations? Yes.
Also talking about gender pay gap.
Yeah.
That is another problem that women, we face it head on, and failing to negotiate a better salary, might create difficulties throughout our career graphs. Also, I was going through a research from Glassdoor. It said that 68% of women accepted the pay that was initially offered to them without negotiating. So that's a huge percentage. So do you have any advice for the women who are looking to negotiate a higher remuneration?
Believe in yourself. I think that's like really the most important one, because women, or the kind even in the hiring that we are doing today, we in fact coach them and tell them that if this is how much your salary is, this is what you should be asking for, this is how you can put your point across and say, this is why I'm looking at so much, right? A lot of times we in our minds, typically women, I would say, don't discount ourselves and say that, okay, no, the person will recognize what my worth is, or will be able to tell me that this is the other person will be fair to me, the organization will be fair to me. It's not to say that people want to be unfair, but it's just that if I'm at a salary of maybe a 20 lakh, I'm okay with a 10-15% hike. I'm not even negotiating and saying that I want a 30% hike a lot of times, right? So we are saying that why you should do that. In fact, when we work with women and around the time when they wanted to come back, our whole discussion with them is we start working with them right from the point of making a CV, saying what your elevator pitch is, how are you going to introduce yourself in the first 2 minutes, what are you going to say, right up to the time when the salary negotiation happens. And that's the time, it's really, sometimes it's disheartening to see that a lot of organizations today, even today, are saying that if your salary that you left the workplace was at 15 lakhs, I'll give you the same amount of money. I mean, sometimes it's important to recognize the life experiences that woman may have had, right, in the 3, 4, 5 years of break that she may have had. That if, for example, if the woman took a break for motherhood, which is about 70% of the cases that we see, that the breaks happen due to that reason. I think motherhood is a teacher like no other. It teaches you to multitask. It teaches you to think of so many things at the same time. You're kind of, the responsibility that it suddenly puts on you, it's a life teacher like nothing else. So, I mean, to discount life experiences from that break, I think is not fair. And that's what we coach or speak to a lot of women to say that it's not to sound rude or arrogant, right? It's about how you're asking for the right value for yourself. That conversation is very, very important, even with women who are currently in organizations, right? When I'm asking for a promotion or I'm asking for a new role, a lot of times we don't think we are 100% ready for that role, and that is why we say, okay, I'll kind of let do with it. It's okay. Jo aa raha hai, aane do. Why are we not cognizant of the fact that if I'm going to be putting in this much effort, if this is the kind of extra that I will need to put in, I will do it ahead. How will we do it? That's, I think, kind of important.
I was thinking about it, that is it also because that women's salary, like a wife's salary, is always considered the secondary income towards a family. Maybe that is how the notion is formed, that whatever we get, let it be. It's fine.
So, you will be surprised to hear that even in interviews, some candidates are asked that, some women candidates are asked that, if your husband is doing so well and all that, if he's doing this, if he's in this job, why do you even need to work? And why are you negotiating he's doing so well? People actually tell the woman this in an interview situation. So it's really, it kind of angers you to say, why am I not bringing in the value that I'm supposed to bring in? I am me as an individual. Then why are you looking at me as a part of a unit which, whatever my husband may be doing, why not? But I am going to be putting the effort here. This is the education. This is the kind of experience that I bring in. Then value me for what is rightfully mine. And there are so many times when women also earn more than their husbands. Then what happens?
Yeah.
So I think the premise for this conversation is wrong.
Yeah. So Anjali, you have trained so many women for their professional, advancements. So do you have any inspiration in your field?
A lot. I have lots of women who've kind of supported, and I look up to for inspiration. Of course, closer home, it's my own mother, because she taught us to be fiercely independent. She still is. She's a doctor. She drives. Although my father's in the army, every place where we went, she set up her new clinic. She moved with him. She managed to make time for us as kids when we were growing up. So I think that really helped, because I've had a working mother all my life. So that kind of really helped, put things in perspective for me as well. And I hope that I can be one for my daughter as well. But I think in the professional space also, being surrounded by so many women who have charted their own careers, who've done so well, I think everybody needs to be surrounded by people who bring you up rather than people who bring you down. Because the minute, even if you're having like a day when you're not in the best of spirits or something, just reach out to someone, and there's so many people who are ready to help.
Yeah.
So that network of who you can talk to or who you can reach out to, I think building that network is very, very important.
Okay, so we are about to end this session today. So before we log out, quickly, what would you want to tell to the young women who are listening to us today, who are just starting to work? What would you like them to know about the workplace today?
This is a very interesting question, because there are so many things that I thought I should have known at that age. I think one is always be independent. Like my father used to keeps telling us that there are two things that I wanted my daughters to learn. One is to be financially independent. He said, my job is to give you the education which will make you financially independent. Whether you work or not or whatever, that's your choice, but you should be able to earn your daily bread. The second is, he told us that you should be able to drive, because I think that gives you a lot of independence, and you're not dependent really to get from one place. It just changes the outlook with which you approach life. So these were my lessons growing up. So of course, I think being financially independent and having your self-worth, I think these are my two big lessons to the women who are maybe studying or just started to work. Please find a way to be financially independent always, even if it's lesser money. If you have to take a break, if you have to, say that, okay, I'll work some hours, take it slow sometimes, because we all know life stages happen. Please do that by all means, but have a plan to come back full time, or to say that if I'm starting on my own, then I'm going to be able to put in that effort which it takes to start off. So it's just being clear about what you want to do with your own life, because like I always say, we are all responsible for our own balance sheets, right?
Yep.
At the end of maybe 15 years later, if you want to look back and say, oh, I wish I had done this differently, I mean, we really don't want to be in a space like that. So it's important to weigh each decision very, very carefully. Also, I think on the support side or on the family side, it's very important to state your expectations and state where your dreams, etc., very, very clearly, so that there is no mismatch there. And if you're asking for support, it also makes sure that you're giving that support to the other person also, but making sure it comes to you. Because if you don't tell other people that I want to work, how will they understand? A lot of times we think that the other person should realize, but it doesn't happen like that, right? So it's important to articulate your expectations and your dreams very, very clearly, so that people can support you when the time comes. Like even when women who are coming back to work, we keep telling them that please have a conversation with your children as well. Even if they may be 3 or 4, you have to start telling them that mama's going to go back to work, I'm going to go to office. Now till now, this is to happen. This is going to change now, and this is where I need you to be more responsible. Or see, you're going to grow up, and this is how you must be able to take care of yourself. So we keep telling women also to have a conversation with their kids, because they're such an important stakeholder in their whole coming back to work. So it's about creating that ecosystem for each one of us to succeed.
Yeah, and taking the first step by yourself.
Always,
isn't it?
It is first inside us. If we want to make it happen, it will happen. Then nothing can come in your way.
So that was a very fitting way to end our conversation here today, Anjali. So quickly tell us how our listeners can reach out to you if they want to.
I'm on LinkedIn as Anjali Gulati, and I think I'm pretty responsive there. So there, and some Instagram, always available to reach. And my email ID is anjali@peoplekonnect.co.in. People Connect is with a K.
Well, Anjali, thank you so much for joining me today in this podcast and sharing your expertise, and we hope to meet you soon again.
Thank you so much for your time, and it was an interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
We have been speaking with Anjali Gulati. This is your host, Sushmita, thanking you for listening to our podcast today.
Thanks for listening to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.